The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
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 Okay, guys, welcome to the Thug Jitsu Master and Squid Show. This is the first episode we are doing this way, remotely with technology, and I've tried to step up my game. Squid has made me step up my game, and now we're going to be able to do our show no matter where I am or he is or where anybody is. As long as we have the internet, Thug Jitsu Master and Squid will be in your home, in the palms of your hands, and in your lives forever.
Hashtag no excuses. Hashtag no excuses. We got it. The show must go on. The show must go on.
In our first episode on the road, we have an awesome guest. We have one of the coaches at Xtreme Couture in Las Vegas. I'm so excited, right? My man, Eric Nicksick. What's up, Eric?
Thanks for having me on.
No, man. I'm happy to have you on. Thank you for holding mitts for me today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for... What is that? Did you hear that?
That's the applause.
Oh! You were mixing it. Okay. Thank you for holding mitts for me.
Technology.
You helped me get back in shape.
Man, I love it. I was glad when I told you let's go hit, and I was afraid to be like, I don't feel like it, and you were like, I'm on it, let's go. So
man, you hit me at the right time because I met about a month ago. I might have said that.
Yeah.
You know, but Rashid, we were working out tonight, and Rashid Magomedov was down there cutting weight, and he asked Rashid, was an old training partner of mine at ATT, and he asked me what was my weight, and I was embarrassed to have to tell him because like he was one of the guys I trained with.
I thought that was our secret though.
I trust him, so I can let him know, but yeah, it's still our secret.
Yeah,
we ain't telling the world.
No, I ain't telling the world.
Oh, we weren't gonna break your weight on the show.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Like, people can guess like the guys at the carnival do.
Yeah, they can guess. How about that? We'll figure out what the prize will be, but the person that comes closest to what my weight is today, I have a witness because Eric saw me step on the scale, and the person that comes closest to that number, if they hit it right on, also, then we'll figure out a prize
maybe
for them.
A shirt or. I'm doing pop sockets, maybe some pop sockets.
Pop sockets.
There you go.
Pop sockets.
Thug Jitsu Master and Squid shirt.
I don't know. Don't drop your phone. So Eric, welcome. You're everywhere.
I'm everywhere.
You're constantly like on TV too. Like your guys are knocking people out and beating people, and you're just there celebrating with them.
Yeah, it's been a long road. It's been a fun road. But again, like Ease and I were kind of talking today. You know, you just put your head down, you grind, and I feel like just good things are happening for the team, most importantly. And you know, the hard work's paying off.
Can we catch up some of the ignorant viewers of ours of who do you train? Can you give us your A-listers? Give us the top guys you're training right now.
You know, for me, I just can kind of think of the pecking order of guys I've had recently. So, while I was in Ngannou's corner, I had Emily Whitmire on the same card in Indianapolis. I was with Dan Ige in South Carolina. I had Jessica I ran her camp. You know, I've worked Uriah Hall's camps. Brad Tavares, I'm with him for every fight. With Brad, I think for his last 9 fights. Just out of the UFC, you know, I ran Gray's last 6 fights. Who else do I have? Jeremy Kennedy, obviously fighting out here for PFL. Vinny Magalesh, I'll be out here next week with Vinny. I was Lance's head coach for last season. We went 5-0, won a title, won $1 million. So, you know, there's a lot of good guys at the gym and the team. They make me look good, I think, and we just have a nice, good group of guys with a lot of camaraderie, and people want to work hard and follow that system. So it's pretty easy, man. And they make me look good.
You look good.
Yeah, they do make you look good. The Ngannou fight, man. And training in Ngannou, like, of course we look at it and he knocks out opponents. He knocks a lot of guys out. But what's it like holding mitts for him?
You know, that's actually Dewey. Dewey's been holding a lot of the mitts for him. And I'll tell you what, Dewey's earned every dollar he makes off of Ngannou because Ngannou puts him to work. And, you know, Francis is just bought in, I think, on surrounding himself with people that he trusts. And I think that's been the biggest thing for him for a long time, is just feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you watch his fights, he didn't feel comfortable, I think, in the Stipe fight, and he didn't look comfortable at all in the Derek Lewis fight. And he made some major changes. And I think a lot of that credit is to Dewey Cooper and Markel Martin, his manager. I think they've helped kind of surround him with people that actually care about him and love him, more than the fact of who he might be as a champion. You know, that people see dollar signs and they see him, not the actual person. And the people that really know Francis and understand Francis, he's a humanitarian. The guy's just has a big heart and a good soul. And once you can kind of tap into that, the athleticism is always going to be there, you know. And then slowly but surely, when he starts to trust people, he starts to listen to good advice, and then now you're starting to see the result.
Man, Junior Dos Santos is a former world champion, right?
Mm.
And to get a knockout in first round against a guy like that with a chin, who's a heavy hitter also, who's capable of doing what you're capable of doing. But the way he looked, he didn't look tentative at all. He looked real confident, very different than did in the Derek Lewis fight.
I agree. And, you know, it's just one of those where you're starting to see guys, their body language when they get in there with them, and guys are usually confident. And then the moment Francis touches them or hits them even with that low kick, you know, you saw him like, oh shit, like I'm in, this is real life right now. And then what I'm really proud about when you see Francis is he's not overthrowing his punches anymore and staying front foot heavy where he's susceptible to get taken down. He's not overthrowing things. He's touching guys, and he's still touching guys. He's very accurate, and he's still putting dudes away with it. You know, even when Junior overthrew his overhand, fell over his front foot, and Francis wrapped the hook around his head and touched him on the chin, and that's what was the beginning of the end for him. You know?
Yeah, the way Junior went down. But did you watch those fights live, Squid? Was those the fight that you went to?
Which one, the Ngannou? Yeah, I was there.
Yeah,
That was crazy. I was a lot of beers in at that point. I was a whole bunch. I was actually kind of happy it ended early. I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, I have to go to the restroom. I was like,
look at Ngannou saving the day all over.
Thank you so much, Francis, for giving CTE to JDS.
I like you and all these acronyms.
Hey, that one kind of rolled off the tongue. I've been listening to a lot of hip hop. But
we talk about a lot of hip hop and CTE.
I love it.
We do. Me and Eve are trying to make some hip hop songs, some mixed martial arts hip hop songs. Yeah, trying to.
He's been listening to too much Run the Jewels, bro. He's trying to fill you in his LP.
I know he's trying to because Run the Jewels is a black rapper, white rapper. I was like, we kind of got that.
Mike and LP.
There we go. I was
There
like, we're already good off the bat right there. I
love
like,
it.
We have a fighting chance.
There's somebody to live up to, man. You out here with Jeremy Kennedy for the fights here, and we were talking. We were talking when we were working on. You were like, yeah, Jeremy and Lance were good training partners last year. They were getting ready for fights together. They were giving each other the business, you know. And I know Lance is now with Mark Henry and Frankie and those guys. And I do. Why is it that Lance switched camps? Is it because Jeremy's in the season? No.
You know, there's a lot of things that I thought could have been the reasons why, but I can only take what Lance told me and what he felt, and he said he wanted to stay closer to home.
Okay.
And that the travel on him and his wife, from him going to Columbus to Vegas, was putting a pretty heavy strain on his relationship with his wife. Being married and having 3 kids, I understand that. And moreover, Lance is a guy that has really elevated my game. I benefited a lot from being around Lance because I got to see what championship mindset was all about. And so with that being said, I feel like that at any point you should always be replaceable if that means that you can move up a step, right?
Right.
I mean, he added on Coach Cal for his last fight in the season where it was like, why are you changing anything? Like, we're killing it right now. And he just, man, I just feel like this Coach Cal is going to give me a little bit extra to win this $1 million or win the title. You know, it wasn't actually the $1 million. It was a title for Lance. And I remember hearing him like, he's going to drive 4.5 hours twice a week and then stay there at night and then drive back and do all this stuff. Like, for what? Like, your cardio has never been an issue, but he just wanted that extra little bit to get better. And I'm like, man, I see why this dude's a champion, you know? So with that mindset, I know I'm not where Mark Henry is now, right? But it gives me motivation to work hard and get to that point sometime in my career where I don't want anybody to ever leave me, you know, and whether it's proximity or not, you know, when the push comes to shove, I want my guy to say, you know what, man, like we went 5-0, we won $1 million and a title. I'm staying with him, right? Any other reason than that, if it's family and everything else, I completely understand. And I wish nothing but the best for him. Lance did a lot for me and my family, and he's taught me more in my career than any other fighter's ever had. So I owe a lot to Lance Palmer, and I wish him nothing but the best. Yeah, you know.
Now that's going to come into some conflict should he run into Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
In the season or in the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy's got a tough fight on Thursday night with Siler, but I mean, this whole weight class is pretty open. There's of the 12 guys, there are like at least 8 guys. I mean, of course, 8 guys are going to make it to the playoffs anyway. But before the playoffs start, there are 8 guys who you can consider, you can see winning. You know,
100%. And I mean, if you look at it this way too, and I don't know mathematically, I haven't gotten the numbers on it, but I mean, Lance and Harrison mathematically could be eliminated with just 3 points if they lose their fights. You know, like 2 guys that are in the finals and the quarterfinals could very easily be out.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of shakeup that can happen Thursday night.
Yeah, Siler, a guy who's in the finals
last year,
he has to win tomorrow night. He needs to win against Jeremy.
He needs to win. Same with Jeremy. Needs to win, you know? So, and that's what I think makes this PFL so intriguing, that every fight matters. So Ray and I were at dinner tonight, and a couple of like people came over, just novice, and they're like, man, like, so what's the organization all about? And so when you actually explain it to a novice and they don't understand, when you come to a fight or a fight card, you want to stay for the whole card,
right? Because
there's drama and buildup that has to do with the entire front to bottom of this entire organization of who's scoring what points. So if you're at the first fight and this guy scores 6, and now you know, well, man, I got to score at least 6 points, right? You know, so I mean, I just love this format and the way they set it up. It's beautiful.
Yeah, especially coming off of, you know, after the first fight, you know you're down 6, and you need 6 points. Like, you don't just need a win; you need 6 points.
You need 6 points.
You know,
pressure is on. The pressure is on. I like it. I love the first matchup of the season, but I really do like the second one because that's when the math starts to come into factor, and making that playoff means more paychecks. Means guaranteed means more paychecks. You control your salary once you make that playoffs. Then every time you win, you're upping your pay, and that's pretty much what it's all about, right?
Right. Sure. That's absolutely what it's all about. So so back to the Jeremy, and well, we got to get through Siler first, right?
Got to get through Siler.
So let's talk about that. What's the game plan?
Well, obviously I know Siler pretty well. You know, we had him in the finals last season with Lance, so broke down a lot of tape with Siler. But Jeremy and Lance are very different fighters. So for me, stylistically, I feel like Jeremy does very well using his length, whereas Lance, we want to fight people in their chest, obviously with level changes and dirty boxing and things of that sort to implement the takedown. So Jeremy has great wrestling as well, but Jeremy likes to set up his wrestling using his length first to close distance. So I think stylistically with the 2 different guys in our game plan, you need to stay dirty with Siler. You need to keep a jab in his face. You need to check. You need to drop low kicks on him. You want to work his body. This dude has a chin. He's tough as hell. Ground stuff, man, you can't incite scrambles. You saw what the guy does in the very first PFL season.
Yeah.
You know?
Very first PFL fight.
Very first PFL fight, the guy's getting smoked. Does a Granby roll, lands into a triangle choke, wins the fight.
Wasn't that crazy?
10-8'd.
That was crazy. I don't know how that dude fell into that triangle too. It was
absolutely
nuts. I still shake my head on that one. I'm like, come on, man, don't fall into that. You had it.
It's one of those situations where it's like, I'm just dominating this. There's nothing to be concerned about.
The kid, you know, I've known Siler for a long time. I actually cornered against him probably about 8 years ago. I was cornering Dennis Davis, who's our head coach at Xtreme Couture. Dennis high-crotch Siler spiked him off his head, and as he bounced him off his head, Seiler slapped a triangle on him. So I've seen it before. I've seen this guy do it. And he went triangle, armbar, back to triangle, and finished Dennis, who's very tough to finish. You know, Dennis, Team Quest guy, and tough as nails. So I've known Seiler for a long time. He's been on my radar for a long time. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. You know, this is also one of those intriguing things about PFL. You know, we're all pretty close. We see each other quite a bit, and you become friends in a way. You know, so again, like, you can't sleep on Seiler. He's a freaking cockroach, man. He's tough to put away.
He is.
So
all of his wins last year were just a little absurd.
Right.
They were all.
Do you
just
remember?
A little...
So in New Orleans last year, he was the number 1 seed fighting the number 8 seed. He was the betting underdog versus the 8 seed.
Yeah.
You know, and then got the win, and then fought Almeida and got the up kick and whatever happened, and then made it all the way to the finals.
I want to shed a tear for Almeida sometimes.
Oh, poor guy.
Just for how he probably feels internally about Steven Seiler.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, he's back, so he'll be fighting also on Thursday night. But so so this is a question I've never asked the coach, especially about the PFL season and the position you and Jeremy are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
6 points, that's a thing, but you got to get some points, and 3 may not cut it, right? So how do you coach? Because the win is always the priority, right? But how do you coach someone to look for those bonus points?
It's a great question, because here's the hard part is I don't want to force something that's not there and get you caught doing something because you're trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
I feel like Jeremy's such a good athlete and well enough to know that if he just touches them and uses his jab and uses his length and pulls and does everything else, finds his entrances, that will present itself at some point during the fight. I just know Seiler. I've seen him for so long. I know he's going to be tough to put away. So with that being said, like, we're going to have to find those openings off the break, those spots on the ground where you can look to find a finish. And to me, even on the ground, the guy does a good job of stymieing dude. He's very tough to submit. He's able to tie guys up. He has a good rubber guard. It keeps you kind of stuck in there to do nothing. So in my mind, it's got to come from the feet, set up with body shots up to the head, things of that sort.
Squid, what do you think of this fight between Seiler and Jeremy Kennedy?
I think it's pretty evenly matched. I think it will likely be a stand-up matchup because I do think Seiler does like to stand. He likes to be on the ground, but I do know he does like to get a little dirty in there. I think he'll be willing to trade a bit, and but I think if he feels like he starts losing, he will try to go to the ground. He's not ashamed of trying to get the fight to the ground. Definitely a different type of opponent than the guy Lance Palmer that kept him on the ground throughout the entire finals. Little different body type on top of you, not the same type of pressure. I like the fight. I like the fact that it's like win and get in. I like those dynamics because I know what they'll do to fighters, and it makes great fights for the audience when I know that one guy has to win, and that's gonna make the big difference whether he's gonna make the playoffs or not, and get towards that $1 million.
Yeah. See, this is where this format starts to get to be fun, right? Especially because the first fight, you want the points and whatnot, but the pressure is different.
Mm-hmm.
Now the pressure is on.
Mm-hmm.
Now the only people with no pressure have 6 points.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because nobody can get more than them.
Right.
So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Well, then you start talking about the gamemanship behind it. When I'm already in the playoffs, right?
Right.
Well, do I risk breaking my hand? Like, well, how do you judge that? The most I think the gamemanship that we took into play the most was the playoffs.
Yeah.
I thought we came up with a great strategy in the playoffs on how to manage that first fight and how to manage the energy between the fight and then how to gear back up for Andre Harrison. And we pretty much wrote down our ideal scenario, and it was exactly how it played out. we wanted Bezares and Andre to have a freaking barn burner fight, and they did. In the first round, we wanted Bezares to start chopping that leg, and he did, and like just all the things that we can kind of see play out in our way, and it did. It helped us out to get to that final.
Yeah, that's when the tournament, especially when that one night thing, like there are so many variables that come into play there.
Exactly.
And I think that's a part of what I would like people to understand. Or not necessarily what I would like the people to understand. It's just what I see underneath all of it with the PFL. It's all these different levels, all these different stories.
Yeah.
Because we talk about that. We talk about the first fight, and really the first fight of the season is just a fight. You just want to win. You just want to go. You just want to go into the fight and win. Yeah, bonus points are great, right? But then you come to the second fight, and there are guys who need the bonus points,
Right.
and then there are guys who have the bonus points, and it's like, well, I just get to fight. I just get to be myself. I don't have to either press the action or I have no concerns in that
Right.
department.
Right.
I can just be myself, and then so you have a bunch of different dynamics playing out in the second fight for the season. But then the playoff starts, and you have a strategy for your opponent, but then you have to have two backup strategies
For the other
for
two
the
guys.
next two guys
Yeah.
because you don't know. But then of course sometimes you have an idea,
Yeah.
so you focus on that one more, but you can't neglect the other.
Correct.
So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to go through that through training camp, and then the night of the fight. And I remember being in tournaments.
Mhm.
That's what makes tournaments so fun. It's like that variable of the unknown. Whereas I have an idea what I'm gonna get next, but I'm not sure, and I got to be prepared. Is the grappler going to win, or is the striker going to win?
And how many southpaws do we have
Right?
in the tournament? Exactly. So that's when we had the fortunate scenario where in New Orleans, I think Lance was the second fight of the night. So Lance fought, he won, and then I was able to actually sit and record on my phone Andre and Becerra. And I just basically watched the fight, recorded it, went back and just kind of, and Lance has already fought Andre, so we kind of already had an idea. But again, was there things that maybe I missed in that fight? Was he wobbled with something? Was he holding his rib? Like that's what I was looking for more than technique. How did he come out of that fight?
Yeah.
Was he icing his knee? Can I pick up any little information there? So there was a lot of gamemanship going on, in the locker rooms, between us coaches and everything else. And then I had to go and leapfrog the next week and do it with Vinny back to back.
Right.
So we had the same thing.
Yeah,
Vinny had a great night that night.
In Long Beach.
Just jumping around, just jujitsuing, just 205 pounds of jujitsu.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when that guy is on, he's on,
Yep.
he's scary. He's scary in the gym. And, we saw what he can do in the fights. He took out two really good guys in Cleveland and Bazagit, right back to back with those Kimuras.
Well, I guess while we have you here in the whole PFL stuff, can we talk about Vinny a little bit?
Yeah, please.
How's he feeling after his last fight? It was he lost his last fight, last year's top seed. Now he's fighting them to get it back into the playoffs. Where's his mindset at, and how's his like composure?
He seems pretty good to me. Obviously with the Sean O'Connell fight, Yves and I were actually talking about that today. That was a fight where Vinny leading up all the way through worked really, really hard throughout the entire tournament. And then in the finals, he still worked hard. Don't get me wrong, but I think mentally everything started to come into play, possibly with the money, with this, with that. I know they were talking about like, hey, tax purposes with buy this car to do this, do that. And I'm like, man, like you didn't even fucking win yet. Like we have a lot to take care of. So in a way, it was kind of like the fight was an afterthought. Like it was just going to roll it out and we're going to finish this guy and move on. And that obviously that wasn't the case. And getting into the fight, there was positions where Vinny had Sean's back in the first round and he didn't really show a whole lot of urgency. So, me being an MMA guy and him being a jiu-jitsu guy, I wanted to see Vinny flatten him out. and start the ground and pound and work, and that will, the neck and the submissions and the arms and all that stuff will arise from the ground and pound. And I think Vinny was just kind of just a little too lax in those positions there, you know, and it ended up catching up to him going into the second, and then obviously the third round he took the big beating, and then going into the fourth, on the stool in the third, that's when I called the fight. You know, I didn't want to see him take any more damage. I didn't see any clear path to victory from that point on, and it was hard because I knew it was at stake. But again, you know, I knew that he had the opportunity to come back this season and rectify those wrongs. So, you know, and here we are.
He was on our show a few weeks ago. He was on our show a few weeks ago. He still has some pure animosity towards Sean O'Connell. He definitely, He said he would love if he wins this year. He wants to call out Sean to fight in the back. I was like, I like that. I don't know if your mind's you're gonna fight a retired fighter, but okay, all right. We'll
see. Sean's a guy for me that if we weren't going to win that fight, I was glad it was Sean O'Connell. You know, like his story, the way he got to that tournament. You know, he was getting beat by Hani Marks in the first round of the first fight in Chicago that we had, and he came back and knocked out Ronnie and won that fight. And then, you know, the way he won, he got beat by Bazagid. He was losing the first round in the playoff. And then needed a finish and did. And then, you know, same thing in the second fight. And then all of a sudden he sneaks into the finals. And I think just by the fashion of the way he got there, you know, we all not necessarily overlooked Sean, because we knew what he was capable of, but we know the sport, man, like at any moment you can get knocked out. Things can change, you know? So, and I think that's where Vinny has a lot of distaste in his mouth, you know?
Sean is the season 1 light heavyweight champion, and Sean is exactly 0-5 in first round of season 1. Crazy. He's 0-5. He lost every first round.
First round.
Good for him.
I mean, that's just unbelievable.
I guess one more question about Vinny. How do you as a coach, so you mentioned kind of Vinny's mindset last season coming up to the finals. So he's taking on Rakeem Cleveland next week, correct?
Correct.
That is one of the fighters that he submitted last year.
Yeah, he hit him with the inverted triangle to the Kimura. How
do you keep him motivated knowing that he already beat the guy, then that you want to keep your fighter laser focused to not because that fight was relatively quick and easy, and you want to make sure your guy makes the playoffs. How do you keep a guy like that motivated when he already tore through him?
Well, very simple. Is you go back and look at his last 2 fights, Vinny's, you know, and he should have a chip on his shoulder, and he should have something to prove. And I wasn't there to corner him for his last fight. I had Jessica I. So, I mean, not saying if I was there or wasn't there, but I wasn't able to see his mindset that fight week. And he needs to be dialed in, and he needs to be ready to go. And in my mind, he needs to go out and make a statement, because you put this guy away the way you did in the first round. It's going to be, I think Cleveland's going to be more dangerous this time around because he knows what to expect, and he's probably going to come out guns blazing, and we have to be ready for that. You know, so Vinny cannot take this guy lightly at all, or we're going to get our head clipped.
I agree with that. I'm of the school of thought that, you know, in a rematch, the onus is on the guy who won the first fight.
100%.
Because the guy that lost, he knows what he has to fix. The guy that won, like, you can't go in there thinking, I'll just do the same thing.
Right.
Because that guy should have fixed everything.
Case in point, I think with ego, is you look at the Rockhold Bisping second fight, and you look at a guy the way Bisping lost to Rockhold the first time, everybody and their mom thinks, well, he's just going to roll it out and do that again.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen sometimes when the guy thinks this already, doesn't train hard, doesn't work hard, doesn't put in the same training camp as he did the last time around, and he thinks he's just going to roll it out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go finish this guy, just sleepwalk through it. And that doesn't happen that way. Sometimes MMA is the rude reminder to all of us.
And you will find that a lot in MMA simply because, like, this sport, like, you're a fighter. Nobody gets into this because it's cool.
Right.
You know, like, yeah, you get into it and you stay in the gym and you do that because it's cool. But
right.
When you get to the level of the PFL, Bellator, the UFC, Ryzen, it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not. This is life.
Yeah, those affliction shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Affliction shirts and the the tap out days when like everyone wanted to get into mixed martial arts, but they didn't really want to fight. They
Exactly.
just wanted to like do a bad class and get a
Train
tap.
UFC. Everybody wanted to train UFC.
Who
exactly.
wouldn't want to train it? I love training UFC. One more thing, because I know you can't stay super long. I want to kind of switch gears away from PFL, just to get your perspective as you're one of the top coaches in the sport. This weekend's UFC 240. Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar. What's your perspective on that fight?
I got to go with Max. I just think the length is gonna pose some problems. I also feel that Max is a guy, after the loss with Poirier, he's gonna go back to the lab and he's gonna come back even sharper. You know, we haven't really seen people touch him at 145 other than Conor. You know, and what he's capable of doing. I just think he's gonna put on a striking clinic against Frankie. I really do. If Frankie can't get inside on Max, which we haven't seen guys being able to do in the last few years, other than Poirier up a weight class, I think it's going to be a long night for Frankie.
Did you watch Pacquiao fight this weekend?
I did actually went.
Really?
Yeah, I actually went. Yeah, I did. Jessica I took me. She had one of her sponsors gave her some tickets, so she said, "Hey, coach, I want to take you to the Pacquiao fight. Would you be down to go?" I was like, "I'm in, man." Like, I think it's the third Pacquiao fight I've been to, and they're amazing.
That was a fantastic fight.
It was a great fight. I mean, dropped him in the first round, 10-8 first round, and Thurman came back and put on a clinic. It was close, man.
That was one of those
close.
ones where a knockdown I was scoring the fight. I'm like, that knockdown in the first round probably won the fight. I was like, that
100%.
was I'm like, that's crazy that like a quick straight lead punch, kind of catching Thurman off balance is the thing that separates him, and
right
gives Thurman his first ever loss.
Yeah, it reminded me of my boy Chris Algieri when he fought Kovalov, and I think he got dropped twice in the first round. And then Chris came back and just put on a boxing clinic and actually won the fight. You know, it's like, oh boy, it's gonna be a long night for Chris. Both of his eyes are closed shut, and he actually won the fight.
What a fighter! Chris Algieri is awesome, man. So, sorry, Eve, but
Yeah.
I just want to say Chris Algieri is awesome. From
Great guy,
coming
man.
from like a kickboxing background to becoming a boxing world champion. He won recently on the last big fight card. So shout out to Chris.
Yeah, he's a stud, and a lot of people don't know this, man. He's a great nutritionist too. You know, he helps a lot of guys with their weight cuts and their diets and everything else too. He's spot on. And he just wrote a book too. I think he's got Fighter's Diet is the name of the book. It just came out on Amazon.
I may need to check that out since we're talking. We started this off with like trying to lose some weight.
I'm trying to. Maybe I'll get that. Maybe I get.
I'm gonna have to give Chris a call.
Yeah,
give
for
Chris
sure.
my number.
Definitely.
So we got to work that out. You so you're going to where are you coaching next after the Vinny fight? You know, what's your next event?
Let's see. I have a couple young up and coming kids. So I think I'm going to help a kid out for FCC. That's a local show in Vegas. And then I'm going to fly out the next day for LFA. His name's Ty Gorder. He's 3-0. He's kind of like our Brad Tavares Jr.
Yep.
Southpaw, and just a lot of power. The kid's got 3 first round finishes, all by knockout. So I mean, just keep an eye on that kid, and that's kind of like the thing for me is, you know, we have all these great guys in UFC right now, and they get a lot of that time, obviously, but we also have to keep these young kids, up and coming kids, and keep them involved and keep them that wheel turn.
Yeah,
so to
support
speak.
them.
Yeah, and support them. You know, I as a young coach coming up, I didn't like the fact of, you know, you kind of grow with these guys, and then they might outgrow you as a coach, and then they go to the bigger coaches, and for me now, it's like, hey, I got to come and make sure I'm helping these young guys and bring them up to with the guys that we already have currently in the UFC and the PFL. Moreover, they're the ones that are making our team better. They're the ones that are allowing us to win these fights.
Yeah.
They're the guys in the weeds taking the lumps and the damages and learning. So you have to reward those guys, whether it's a pad session or going out to corner them for free or taking care of them, because if you don't take care of them, they're not going to be able to take care of you either.
Right.
You know, so.
Man, you sound like you got it all right. You know what I mean? As a coach, that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of commitment. I mean, Mike Brown does it very well.
Yeah.
But also, like, American Top Team has a very good support system there, and there are tons of fighters in there.
Mhm.
And Mike does have his guys, and that's great. He does it well. But you sound like you have a really good grasp on how to run a camp, you know, and run a camp where multiple stars are involved.
And you know how it is. It's a lot of it's attention. I try to pride myself in making sure that I send text messages because that's easy now with technology. But you get that text message and, you know, you just feel a little bit better knowing that your coach is there or he's involved or he's watching. Maybe you didn't catch an entire round, but maybe you saw something, you know, in that round. And even after practice, if you just send that, hey, you look great and doing this, this, and that, and you know how that makes you feel, you know, and just keeping that involvement all the time. And it's a full-time job. You know, I run the gym itself. We have 600 members. Randy's my boss. He's never there, you know? So, and then that comes first and foremost, because if we don't have our membership and we don't have the gym running, then we don't get to have the fight team that we have. They're the ones that pay the bills or the members.
Right.
You know, so juggling all of that and then the travel and then obviously being a father and a husband, now with where I'm at, I want to make sure that the guys that I'm working with are like guys like Lance or people that inspire you, man. They make you want to get up and get out of bed and go to work. They make you want to get better, you know, and that's what the sport's all about because it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. So if you don't stay ahead of the curve, man, you're going to get left behind. So that's what I love so much about it.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting. You're so calm, which is I think is good.
right?
I think is good.
He's got it all together, man. I appreciate that.
Very, very zen. You don't seem you don't seem like are you the coach that like get yelled at someone when you're mad, or like, or you're more into like this? Like, I've done a bit of coaching. I've noticed there's a couple perspectives. You either like get mad at fighters, or I find if you let a guy know that you're disappointed in them, that seems to kind of get through to them a little faster too.
Honestly, Squid, I think it depends on the guy.
Yep.
And coming up, you know, I came up through a football background with a lot of football coaches in my life, my dad as well as my uncle. And I played quarterback. So being a quarterback, you can grab certain guys by their face mask and yell at them. And there's other guys that just don't respond that way. So you have to be in touch with who your guys are and how you want to deliver that message to them. Some guys you got to pat on the back. Some guys you got to yell at. Some guys. But when it comes to things that happen with the team and the way I have to handle some guys on the team, sometimes it is tough love as a group. But as an individual basis, I just really have to make sure that I know who the guy is and what they need to hear at that certain time.
I find that so interesting that you come from a quarterback background is a great background to come with because you're not a coach because you're a player, but you are kind of coaching and you are kind of you're the guy everyone leans on, and you're I guess the analogy is like you're kind of running the offense at Xtreme Couture. You're like the quarterback for them in a way, just like
that's a great way to put it.
Giving them the plays and looking over the footage and trying to execute through other people because it is a team thing. Even though it's an individual sport, the team factor has really rose more and more as the sport has progressed.
You know, you hit it on the head, man. That's the best point you can make in MMA. It's an individual sport the moment that cage door closes, but we're only as good as the team that leading up to that point. So it takes a lot of that. It's the coaches, it's the guys, you know, that we talked about, these young up and coming kids, your sparring partners and everything else that comes into play that makes you the fighter that you are today. So managing all those energies and all those processes throughout, I think is just as viable. And we as fans only get to see 15 minutes of it in the cage. But us as coaches and fighters and media and the people that actually see what goes on behind the scenes, that's an 8-week process, man. There's a lot of shit that goes on in that 8 weeks that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, it's definitely a club.
Yeah.
And everybody's not invited.
Club MMA.
No, it's good. I know. How are you on time? Because I know you gotta help Jeremy with his weight cut tonight.
Yeah, let me check on him. So. Yep, he's ready to go. He said, "Let's party."
Okay.
That's a good party. Weight cut party.
Yeah, those are the least fun kind.
Right. Not looking forward to that one.
No, not at all. He loves that sound.
That type of partying. Boo, 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 boo.
Exactly.
Eric, man, we'd love to have you back in here.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Definitely.
When we're back out here for Vinny.
Let's do it. I'm in. Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll get
Thank
caught
you
up.
so much.
Absolutely.
We'll roll into our theme music as we like to end every show. Thank Thank you for coming out.
The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
The Jitsu Master